My husband departed, leaving me submerged in arrears and financial obligations. However, my son, who is 11 years old, stated that I exacted retribution upon my father. 7 days hence, my husband contacted me, his voice choked with tears. And prior to our continuation, would you be so kind as to indicate your country of origin for viewing this video? I trust you will enjoy the ensuing narrative, Victor. He stood in the entryway, a satchel in his grasp. From the confines of the kitchen, Irina observed him, her posture propped against the doorframe. A profound unease settled within her, akin to an icy mass descending into her very core. She had anticipated this moment, a premonition that resonated deep within her. Yet until the final instant, a flicker of hope persisted that it might somehow be averted. Alas, it was not to be. I am departing, Victor articulated softly, his gaze deliberately unfocused. Irina remained silent. She noted the tremor in his hands, the restless shifting of his weight from one foot to the other. Through the span of their married life, she had become intimately acquainted with him, as if he were a familiar landscape. She knew the subtle lines etched around his eyes, each mark upon his skin, and now, confronting this man in his disarray, she understood with stark clarity that she was irrevocably losing him. To whom? She finally managed, her voice strained as she attempted to maintain an even tone. Victor hesitated. He averted his eyes for an extended period, as if carefully selecting his words. Irina waited, her breath held captive. He whispered, his head bowed. Polina. Irina felt as if a physical blow had landed in her abdomen. Young Polina, a junior associate from his firm. She had harbored a subtle, nagging suspicion that this young woman regarded Victor with a particular kind of attentiveness, but she had resolutely dismissed these unsettling thoughts. Disbelief had been her shield. How could you? She whispered, a prickle of tears surfacing in her eyes. How could you inflict this upon Kirill and myself? Victor sighed. I never intended for this to transpire, he mumbled. My heart belongs to Polina. The utterance of this word felt like a final verdict. Irina closed her eyes. A sharp, piercing pain, like a sliver of glass, shot through her. Memories of their wedding, the birth of Kirill, their shared aspirations for the future, all seemed to crumble into dust overnight. And what of the mortgage? She inquired, opening her eyes. What about the outstanding debts? Have you even contemplated the practicalities of our existence? Victor offered a dismissive shrug. I will provide assistance, he promised, stating he would remit funds. Irina offered a wry, humorless smile. Not a single word he uttered carried any conviction for her. She was acutely aware that Polina would likely drain him completely, leaving no surplus for his family. Be gone, she stated, turning away. Simply vanish. Victor, without uttering a single word of remorse, departed. You are from the neighborhood. Irisha. The moment she stepped inside, she found herself utterly alone. She remained motionless for a considerable duration, as if rendered immobile by shock. A wave of despair washed over her, impacting the very walls of her existence. Tears streamed from her eyes, searing her cheeks. She wept with the profound sorrow of a child who has lost a cherished toy. Her grief was for a shattered family, for the unfulfilled dreams of love. How would she convey this to Kirill? What words could she find for her son, who adored his father with such intensity? How could she possibly explain that his father would no longer reside with them because he had fallen for another woman? Irina rose and proceeded to the living room. Kirill was seated at the table, engrossed in his studies. He looked up, his large brown eyes clouded with apprehension. Mom, what has happened? He inquired, a frown creasing his brow. Why are you weeping? Irina sat beside him and drew him into an embrace. She struggled to find the appropriate words. Dad has left, she whispered, feeling another surge of tears welling in her throat. Kirill pulled away from her, his expression a mixture of surprise and disbelief. Where has he gone? He asked. To another woman, Irina responded, striving for clarity. Kirill's countenance shifted, contorting with pain and confusion. He fell silent, his gaze fixed on a distant point. Then abruptly, he sprang from the table and rushed from the room. Irina heard the resounding slam of his bedroom door, a stark echo of Victor's departure. The financial burden of maintaining their household, the utility costs, sustenance, military service payments, all of it constituted an overwhelming weight upon her shoulders. She was compelled to undertake night shifts at the medical facility. To somehow make ends meet, she toiled relentlessly, sacrificing her own well-being, her health, her personal desires. Kirill retreated inward. His smiles vanished. His willingness to share his inner world evaporated, as if a formidable barrier had been erected between them. Irina empathized with his profound distress. One particular day, upon her return from a nocturnal shift, Irina discovered a hastily penned note from Kirill resting on the table. "Mom, I love you. I will endeavor to assist you." Tears once again welled in Irina's eyes. She recognized the immense difficulty her son was enduring. He was making every effort, yet he was merely a child. The sole beacon of solace in her somber existence was her neighbor, Lena Petrovna, a woman of inherent kindness and wisdom, who offered a comforting presence and steadfast support. She would visit her. Each evening, she would bring fragrant tea and freshly baked pastries, listen attentively to Irina's woes, and impart sagacious counsel. "Do not succumb to despair, Irinka," Galina Petrovna would say, gently stroking Irina's hand. "All will resolve itself. Life is a tapestry of alternating fortunes. Following a period of adversity, a brighter phase invariably emerges." Irina absorbed her words, and a sense of belief began to take root. She became convinced that things would improve. She felt capable of navigating the multitude of challenges that lay ahead. She was certain she could secure a respectable future for Kirill. A few days later, Kirill approached Irina with an enigmatic declaration. "Mom, I have exacted revenge upon Dad." Irina froze, the soup she was stirring on the stove momentarily forgotten. "I have exacted revenge." The meaning eluded her. She turned cautiously towards her son, who was seated at the kitchen table, his gaze immersed in his textbook. His expression appeared one of intense concentration, yet a subtle spark in his eyes hinted at an underlying excitement. "I have exacted revenge, Kirill." "What precisely do you mean?" she inquired softly, making a conscious effort to conceal her mounting apprehension. Kirill lifted his head, meeting his mother's eyes. A peculiar blend of pride and remorse was discernible in his gaze. "Well, you witnessed his treatment of you. You saw how you wept through the nights. I simply could not permit it to continue unchecked," he mumbled, averting his eyes. Irina sat beside her son, taking his hand in hers, her heart pounding a frantic rhythm. Had Kirill truly undertaken some action? What could he possibly have accomplished? "Kirill, please listen to me. Retaliation is not the answer. It only perpetuates animosity. What have you done? Kindly inform me," she implored. Kirill hesitated, his lower lip caught between his teeth. It's nothing to worry about. Mom, I merely accessed something on his computer and dispatched it." He spoke quietly. "To whom did I send it?" A wave of panic washed over Irina. "Well, there were some documents pertaining to finances. You know, Dad always engaged in rather questionable dealings. I harbored the belief that by causing him a degree of consternation, he would feel ashamed and ultimately return," Kirill explained. He looked at his mother with a hopeful expression. Irina recoiled in horror. "Kirill, what have you done?" she exclaimed, striving to maintain a measured tone. Kirill frowned. "But I wanted to help you, for him to come back," he countered. "He is a good person. You cannot help in such a manner. I wish to speak with my wife." "Before we take any further steps, we must understand the potential repercussions," Irina stated, feeling her knees weaken. She recognized the paramount importance of remaining composed and assessing the situation. Yet how could she achieve this when her heart felt as though it might burst from her chest? "Very well. Let us not dwell on this presently. I require time to contemplate everything," Irina said, rising to her feet. "And you, please, refrain from any further actions without consulting me." Kirill nodded, lowering his head. He was clearly burdened by a sense of guilt. Irina turned away and walked towards the window. The sun shone brightly outside, yet a tempest raged within her soul. She felt adrift, uncertain of her next course of action. How could she possibly contend with this revelation? How could she shield Kirill and herself from the potential fallout? Later that evening, as Kirill was engaged in his studies, Irina sat beside him, taking his hand. Kirill, I need to know precisely what you transmitted to your father, and to whom. This is of utmost importance, she said softly. Kirill sighed, his gaze meeting his mother's with a sheepish expression. I discovered some files in the work folder on my father's computer. There were some figures, some charts. Honestly, I didn't comprehend any of it, but I assumed there was something untoward, he admitted. And I sent it via email to your father's boss. Irina closed her eyes. The situation was far graver than she had initially surmised. Disseminating compromising information directly to his superior was an assured method of jeopardizing Victor's career. Kirill, do you comprehend the potential ramifications? You could have irrevocably damaged your father's life, she asked, struggling to suppress her rising anger. Kirill cried out, I didn't mean to. Irina embraced her son, holding him close. She understood that his intentions were solely to offer assistance, but his naive actions could have catastrophic consequences. That night, Irina found herself unable to sleep for a considerable duration. She tossed and turned in her bed, her mind consumed by the events that had transpired. She felt trapped. On one hand, she harbored resentment towards Victor for his infidelity and selfishness. On the other hand, she recognized that it was not their place to see Kirill expelled from school, nor was it their place for Victor to lose his livelihood. Despite the profound pain he had inflicted upon her, what recourse did she have? She felt utterly powerless. The following day, Galina Petrovna arrived, bearing a freshly baked pie, and settled beside Irina on the sofa. What has occurred, Irochka? Galina Petrovna inquired. Irina recounted the events that had unfolded, and Lena Petrovna listened intently, her hand gently stroking Irina's. Indeed, the situation presents considerable challenges, she conceded once Irina had finished her narrative. However, do not lose hope, my child. Everything will eventually find its resolution. Kirill acted as a child. He lacked the understanding of the consequences of his actions. And Victor, is he not responsible for his own predicament? One cannot construct one's happiness upon the foundations of another's misfortune. But I do not wish for him to suffer for what has transpired, Irina exclaimed. Ira, you cannot bear responsibility for the choices made by others. Vitya made his own decision, and Kirill needs to understand that retaliation is not the solution. Yet do not assign excessive blame to him. He merely sought to protect you. A week after Kirill's impulsive act, Victor contacted Irina. His voice was imbued with a mixture of tears and despair. Ira, it's Vitya, he whispered, and the usual self-assurance he had exuded when announcing his departure was entirely absent. I am in dire straits. Irina's body grew cold. She had no desire to hear from him, no inclination to involve herself in his troubles. Her own burdens were more than enough to contend with. Yet something deep within her, a long dormant flicker of compassion, compelled her to remain silent and listen. What has happened? She inquired, her tone dry. Victor struggled to compose himself. He choked back a sob. Everything has come to light. Irina remained silent, feigning ignorance. I have been terminated. Irina reacted with a sharp intake of breath. Now I am without employment, without funds, utterly destitute. My reputation is in ruins. Everyone is aware of my character. Victor's voice faltered. Irina felt a wave of nausea rise within her. And that is not all, Victor continued, seemingly oblivious to her silence. Polina has simply abandoned me. She packed her belongings and departed. She stated that she has no need for a failure burdened by debt. Irina felt no surprise. She had never placed any credence in the sincerity of Polina's affections. It had merely been a veneer concealing an underlying emptiness. However, she had no inclination to indulge in schadenfreude. Vitya, what is it you require from me? Irina finally asked, her voice striving for a measure of composure. Silence prevailed on the telephone line. It seemed Victor was gathering his resolve. Help me, Ira, please. I am aware that I have committed a grave error. I have ruined everything, and I am utterly lost. I am in despair. Assist me in navigating this predicament. I implore you, Irina. She closed her eyes. He was seeking her assistance after all that had transpired, after the immense pain he had inflicted upon her and Kirill. Did he truly believe she was capable of such an act? Images of the preceding weeks flashed through her mind. Her nightly tears, the gnawing fear for their future, her anxiety for Kirill. It was all his doing, and now he implored her aid. Her voice, devoid of anger or pity, conveyed only a resolute finality. I cannot help you. I have no desire to assist you. You made your own choice. You have irrevocably altered the course of your own life. You must now bear the responsibility for your actions. But Ira? Victor began to speak, but she interrupted him. Goodbye, Vitya, and please, do not contact me again. She terminated the call and tossed the phone aside. Her hands trembled. She felt an overwhelming sense of emptiness, as if she had just completed an arduous task. A pang of sympathy for Victor resonated within her, yet this pity could not counterbalance the pain he had inflicted. She could not permit him to re-enter her life and dismantle the fragile remnants of what little she possessed. That evening, upon Kirill's return from school, Irina decided to broach the subject of his academic progress. How have things been at school? She inquired, her tone gentle. Kirill shrugged, his response nonchalant. He remained somewhat withdrawn, avoiding her gaze. Irina understood that he was grappling with a sense of culpability. Your father called today, Irina stated. Observing his reaction, Kirill flinched slightly, but remained silent. He was dismissed from his position. Kirill lowered his head, a flicker of remorse crossing his features. I know you intended to help me, she whispered. Your actions, however well-intentioned, have consequences that we often fail to anticipate. You are not to blame for this outcome. Your father is accountable. He made his own decision. You merely sought to protect me. Kirill wept on her shoulder. Irina understood that he required time to process the enormity of what had occurred, but she was present to offer her unwavering support, to help him navigate this challenging period. She recognized the necessity of moving forward, of embarking on a new chapter in her life, and she resolved to dedicate herself to achieving happiness, both for herself and for Kirill, securing a brighter future for him. Victor, having lost everything, made futile attempts to reconcile with his family, but Irina remained steadfast in her refusal to reintegrate him into her life. He visited on several occasions. Irina listened to his words, observed his dejected appearance, but her heart held no space for pity. Only a profound weariness and an unshakable conviction that their past was irretrievably broken. Vitya, you must comprehend that certain things cannot be reclaimed, she told him calmly. No, you yourself made the decision. You yourself were the architect of our family's dissolution. I can no longer place my trust in you, nor do I wish to. Kirill, witnessing these encounters from a distance, experienced a complex mixture of emotions. On one hand, he felt a degree of sorrow for his father, observing his evident suffering. On the other hand, he vividly recalled his mother's tears and the sleepless nights filled with her despair. He understood that his mother was right. Such transgressions were beyond forgiveness. She no longer dwelled on the past. She recognized that a long and arduous journey lay before her, but she felt prepared to undertake it. The woman she had been just a few months prior, meek and bewildered, was no more. Victor's betrayal, paradoxically, had forged her into a stronger individual, bolstered by the unwavering support of her neighbor and her colleagues. Irina began to accept private commissions for medical procedures. Initially, these were small, supplementary engagements, administering injections, performing wound care, offering consultations. She would attend to her patients after her regular work shifts, tired yet content with the opportunity to augment her income. Galina Petrovna provided invaluable assistance at every turn. She would look after Kirill when Irina was away on her visits. Her support was truly indispensable. Irochka, do not succumb to despondency. Lena Petrovna would reassure her. Things will improve. You are a resilient woman. The most crucial element is to believe in your own capabilities. Irina's professional colleagues also offered their support, recommending her services to their acquaintances, sharing their expertise, and assisting her in acquiring necessary equipment. Irina sensed she was not alone. A network of individuals stood ready to champion her cause. Gradually, the volume of her assignments increased. Irina recognized the need to expand her private medical practice. The challenge of securing funds for a dedicated space, for equipment, and for advertising loomed large, yet Irina remained undeterred. She meticulously saved every penny, accepted additional shifts, and diligently researched avenues for small business development. One day, during a conversation with Galina Petrovna, Irina confided her aspiration. Galina Petrovna, I wish to establish my own medical office, she articulated, but I am uncertain of the path forward. I lack the necessary capital. Galina Petrovna listened with rapt attention before responding. Irochka, consider what you already possess. You have acquired knowledge. You possess practical experience. Your hands are capable of healing. Financial resources can be accumulated. The fundamental requirement is to simply commence. These words ignited a spark of determination within Irina. She resolved to take a calculated risk. She utilized her entire accumulated savings and secured a suitable premises in a local establishment. The space necessitated refurbishment, but Irina was undaunted. She personally undertook the renovation work, painting the walls, installing new flooring, and upgrading the plumbing. Her colleagues contributed essential equipment. One person provided an outdated medical examination table. Another donated a piece of physiotherapy apparatus. Galina Petrovna furnished the space with houseplants, lending it a warm and inviting ambiance. It was a modest, yet immaculately clean and brightly lit room, equipped with all the necessary provisions for administering initial medical care. Irina affixed a sign to the door bearing the inscription, Medical Office. A profound sense of accomplishment and pride washed over her. She had achieved it. She had successfully overcome all obstacles and embarked upon a new and promising chapter in her life. Her initial patients were referrals from friends who attested to her professional competence. We can achieve this. Irina's approach extended beyond the physical ailments of her patients. She tended to their emotional well-being as well. Consequently, her reputation as a skilled and compassionate healthcare provider spread throughout the district. Individuals facing a variety of health concerns, from common colds to chronic conditions, began seeking her expertise. Irina never declined assistance to anyone in need. She dedicated herself to her work from dawn until dusk, sparing no effort. Her improved financial standing enabled her to send Kirill to a summer camp. She no longer felt impoverished or unhappy. She had attained financial independence and a newfound sense of self-assurance. Irina and Kirill learned to navigate their altered circumstances, recognizing that betrayal had served as the catalyst for a more fulfilling and joyous destiny. Their bond deepened, and they developed a profound appreciation for what they possessed. Irina, with her unwavering commitment and compassionate nature, dedicated herself to aiding others. She emerged as a figure of strength and resilience. Kirill perceived her as his personal hero. Victor occasionally attempted to contact Irina, but she consistently disregarded his calls. She had no desire to revisit the past. Her focus was firmly fixed on the present, with aspirations for a brighter future. One day, during a leisurely stroll in the park with Kirill, Irina chanced upon Victor. He was seated alone on a bench, his demeanor dejected and his appearance aged. He met Irina's gaze, but she averted her eyes, unwilling to engage. Her attention shifted to Kirill, and a smile graced her lips. He returned the smile, and together, hand in hand, they continued their journey towards a newfound happiness.